Welcome back to Spill the TXC with me, your host, Amber. I have no idea why it's like I'm about to go in for a fight. To be honest, I do kind of feel like that a little bit because this is the only place I have to record where I've actually got peace and quiet enough so that I can hear myself think. There's nowhere else I can go. So I think this is going to become a regular thing, just TXC headquarters, aka my car. Anyway, before we get started on today's episode, I do need to have a little chat with you because something has come to my attention. My podcast is all over the place. And I feel like over on TikTok, I have my niche nailed down. I do Reddit stories, I do follower submission stories, whether they are toxic, vengeful, scary, funny, just your stories. They are your stories. And that's got me over 500,000 followers, because people enjoy them. And so I come over to YouTube and Spotify and I think, I know what I'll do. I'll throw true crime into the mix. It's not a good idea. It takes me over a week, because I don't have all of the time in the world. It takes me over a week to research each true crime story. So that means I'm putting a video out maybe once every 2 weeks if we're lucky, which just is really not what I envisioned for my channel. So for now, not forever, because I do love true crime and I do want to go back to it at some point in some capacity, find a way to include it later down the line. But for now, I'm dropping true crime. I'm going back to my roots. I'm going back to your stories, and I will be uploading every week from my car. And it's absolutely boiling right now. And I don't know what I'm going to do in the winter when it rains. So gonna need a different plan for them. But who knows? My podcast is probably going to be so popular by then that I will be rich. I will buy a mansion and just separate a whole wing, which will be my podcast recording wing that nobody's allowed to go. So that's what you can expect from me, going back to my roots, telling Reddit stories, scary stories, your stories. And if you have a story you want to hear on my podcast, you can always send them in to toxicstories@outlook.com. And I do check that daily, so make sure you send me your stories in. And on that note, today's episode is all about mother-in-laws from hell. And trust me, some of these mother-in-laws truly have dragged their way back up from the depths of hell. Clawed their way back up from the depths of hell. It's not normal. What is it about boy mums as well? I mean, these stories include manipulation, mums that I'm sure wish their sons were still attached to their nips somehow, and in-laws that completely ignore damaging and dangerous situations. Grab a cup of tea and get comfortable and get ready for stories that are actually going to make you appreciate your in-laws. And if they don't, then you clearly have a story to send in. So what are you waiting for? As you can imagine, I don't actually have anywhere to put my laptop, so I don't really want to be looking down the whole time. I do want to show you the back of my top. How nice is that? If you're listening to this on Spotify, you just know it is really cute. It's got a big hole at the back and it's like a lime green. But yeah, I have nowhere to put my laptop, as you can imagine, because we're in the car. So I'm just going to balance it on my knee. Hopefully my eyesight isn't too far down for you guys. And I also don't have a bottle of water, so get ready for 5 stories in a boiling hot car from the driest mouth you've ever heard. This first story is called Stupid Bitch Mother-in-Law. And the first thing I want to say is she's not a word mincer. She says it how it is, and I quite like that. Also, I've just had a quick scan, and when I say bitch, that's how we've referred to the mother-in-law here. She's referred to as bitch. So I gave birth. Induction ended in C-section, and the bitch came as soon as I came to my postpartum room. She started asking my mum, where did my son sleep? Was he comfortable? He had to wait 2 days here. I'm like, this bitch, I'm the one giving birth, and she's worried about how her own son slept, in brackets, my husband. Before she left, she said, see you guys tomorrow. In my head, I'm like, fuck no, I'm not seeing her tomorrow. I'm mostly always naked and bleeding like crazy. I sent her a voice note the next day, very politely saying that I'm not having visitors today because I need to rest and they're doing tests on me. It's fair enough. She listened to it and didn't reply. And then she went crazy, called her son to tell him, I'm not coming for her, I'm coming for you. I ended up having this huge fight with my husband over it. Turns out she's jealous how my mum is there and she isn't. well, she can fuck off because she's not my mother. Now I hold so much resentment towards my husband and I'm trying to get over it. I will be seeing the monster-in-law in the future, and honestly, I don't care anymore. If she crosses a boundary, I'm literally addressing it on the spot. No fucking way I'm letting shit like this slide again. We do actually have an update on this one already, and it's called Update on the Stupid Bitch Mother-in-Law. Everything backfired on me. My mum came home with me to my house, and my husband started accusing my mum of trying to control my decisions, just like how I tell him his mum is with him. He started projecting everything on me. I ended up going to my mum's house with my newborn to get away from all of the drama. I was under insane stress and anxiety. I started throwing up and I can't eat anymore. My mum goes crazy after seeing me throw up so much. She sends a message to his mum basically saying, "What's your issue?" His mum sees it and doesn't reply. She claims that she didn't know about anything going on, and my mum bombarded her with messages. I ended up coming back to my husband's house and start eating better and feeling better. He asked me a week later if his family, including his mum, can come over to see the baby, and I said yes. I cleaned the house because the house was a mess, and I'm not even 3 weeks postpartum. His mum and sister come first and sit. I say hi, hello, and they hold my son and everything. I sit next to them on the couch, but I don't talk at all. I'm scrolling through my phone. Then she looks at me and opens the subject and asks, "What did I do to you?" Obviously gaslighting everything she did. I ask her politely, "Please, I am tired and I don't want to talk about anything." She doesn't listen. She just keeps on asking and asking. She calls me disrespectful, and she calls my mum disrespectful. I stay quiet. His brother and wife then knock, and his mum says to me, "Let's close this subject." So we did. They walk in, and I'm saying hello to them, and then all of a sudden I look back and she starts screaming, jumping, and crying. "Take me home. Take me home. I don't want to stay here. I raised you guys with all of my heart. Who is she to be disrespectful to me?" Everyone's now trying to calm her down. Everyone's attention is on her. So I take my son because she's shouting over him. And then everybody leaves and I start to have a panic attack. It's been 3 days and I keep on throwing up. I can barely take care of my son. Fuck them all and fuck my husband. I don't know what to do. Oh, and my husband wanted to take my son round to his mum's for an hour before she travels without me, and he's not even 1 month yet. So I said no. And that's where it ends. I mean, I don't think any baby should be taken away from their mum that early anyway. So I think she's absolutely right in saying no. And you know what? It's not even about the behaviour of the mother-in-law. I mean, the behaviour itself is disgusting, but it's the timing. Like, this lady has just given birth. It sounds pretty traumatic as well. She was rushed to a C-section, which is traumatic. I know, I've been there. And it's her most vulnerable time. Regardless of how you feel, regardless of your emotions as the mother-in-law, hold on to them, even if it's just for a little while. Don't do this at this point in her life when she's supposed to be enjoying the newborn, when she's probably teetering on the edge of postpartum depression, because we all are after giving birth. I know I was, and I fell into it deeply. And if I had problems like that, if I had my mother-in-law screaming and shouting in my face, in my house, over my baby, I probably would have been a lot worse. And the fact is, she already gave her mother-in-law a second chance, because that mother-in-law had already overstepped so many boundaries in the first few days, in the first few hours of this mum's new transition into being a mum. So she gave her a second chance by saying yes to her husband. The family can come over and see the baby. Your mum can come over and see the baby. And then she did that. So I'm curious to know, what are your opinions on visitors when you've just had a baby? Is it the mum's prerogative to say no, I don't want visitors right now? Or should the dad's family be as included as the mum's? If you say no to visitors, should it be across the board for both families? Should the new mum be allowed her mum there after everything that she's gone through? Should she be allowed her mum there, but should she be allowed to say no to his mum being there? Personally, I think whatever the new mum says goes. And I'm lucky enough that my mother-in-law would never overstep a boundary like that and would completely understand that after going through something so traumatic, I need my mum there. And I might not want anybody else there, but that would be across the board, excluding my mum. So tell me your opinions on that. Should you be saying yes to all visitors to make everybody happy because everybody's excited about the new baby? The husband wants all of his family to meet the new baby as well. Or do you have the right to say no to people? Do you have the right as the new mum to be selective with who comes, with who you're most comfortable with in your most vulnerable time? This next story is called Mother-in-law and Sister-in-law Are Literally Insane. I am essentially venting, and honestly, what I'm about to describe seems like a Netflix show. This may be triggering to some, FYI, as it deals with child abuse. When our son was 3, we found out my sister-in-law's 7-year-old tried to touch him inappropriately. I mean, my first thought is, where has that 7-year-old learnt that from? That's not really a natural thing, is it? It's not really something that 7-year-olds know to do, is it? I certainly didn't at 7 years old. I don't think that's normal for them to even know about it. That is very concerning. Our son knew to say no and told us straight away about it. We briefly tried to discuss this with my sister-in-law and mother-in-law, who did not have much to say about the matter. And that's also a huge red flag, because people who know that they are guilty, people who know that you're telling the truth, who know that they're in the wrong, they don't have much to say, do they? They normally just turn it around on you. Sister-in-law overall denied it, states she talked to her kid, but I do not really believe that. And we decided to set boundaries, meaning the kids could not be alone together. At Christmas, the 7-year-old started to tickle our son in front of us and started to tickle him at the belt line and around the groin. We obviously stopped it immediately and voiced our concerns the day after Christmas. Not much was said. Sister-in-law accused us of lying about everything, and my mother-in-law did not have much to say. Again, our son was to have his first sleepover with his grandparents, and my sister-in-law then decides that her kids need to stay the night too and takes them over. Apparently, my mother-in-law knew about the sister-in-law's kids coming 1 to 2 days before. Mother-in-law did not bother to tell us. We get there and the 7-year-old is hiding, but I saw him. He's been told to hide. He's not gonna do that himself. He as a 7-year-old isn't gonna have an adult saying to him, they don't want you to stay with their kid. Like they're gonna keep that quiet from him, especially if they're denying everything. So he's been told to hide. My mother-in-law was not going to tell us that he was there. She then said she was going to let them sleep in the same bed with her in the middle. Not acceptable. My husband exchanged words with his mother, and then we left. Since then, we had to get child and youth involved with the situation, as our son told his preschool teacher about it. I love the fact that this little boy, this 3-year-old, isn't keeping quiet. He's telling everyone, as he absolutely should. Essentially, the case was closed as we decided to keep our son away. If we were to take him around that family again, there would need to be an order in place to keep the 7-year-old away. My mother-in-law has harassed both my husband and I, calling my husband, son, and I liars. Called my husband and I every name in the book. Threatened to call my place of employment and make things up about me. She tried to contact my friends and family to make up lies. We sent a cease and desist order, which she did not follow. And then a police officer had to get involved and reports were filed due to her harassment and defamation. I cannot believe any of this is real. I feel my husband and I handled this so well. Also, how can you take a side as a grandparent? We never asked for her to take a side. We just wanted boundaries respected. Also, how can you take a side as a parent? Because clearly she's favouring her daughter. My mother-in-law thinks everything my sister-in-law does is golden. Well, there it is. Let me describe my sister-in-law. In high school, she went from goth to punk. She then started hanging out with the Middle Eastern kids. She wore brown makeup and wore a bindi. She is as white as can be naturally. She then started to date a girl and then joined the army junior year. No issue with her being a girl, just adding given the context. By senior year, she was with a boy and pregnant with twins, all in 4 years. She was a busy, busy girl. After high school, she got into weightlifting and steroids, married the twins' dad and had another kid, left that husband, then became Amish and lived that life. Yes, Amish. She lost custody for her 3 oldest kids due to abusing them physically. Of course, she said she did not abuse them and that their biological dad, not the Amish one, tricked them into making up lies. But I saw the hospital reports confirming the injuries. Of course, the whole family believes her despite the hospital, police reports and recordings. Sister-in-law has since had 4 more kids and is pregnant again. Still married to the Amish guy, but at least 2 of the kids are out of wedlock. The only job she had was working for 6 months as a stripper. No other jobs. We did find out she was banging guys for cash, which my husband did eventually tell his parents about. Of course, we had proof of that too, and she denied it, and everyone believes her. Also, we tried to adopt my husband's cousin's child whilst my sister-in-law had emergency custody. How do you get emergency custody if you do not have custody of 3 of your own kids? Sister-in-law then came up with every excuse in the book why we shouldn't adopt him. We still wanted to, but whilst we applied for the home study, she gave him to a friend. I don't understand how that was legal. Now this poor kid is in the foster system, and we can't afford to adopt him now as I'm pregnant. Jesus. I know none of this sounds real, but it is. I know this is Reddit, but does anybody have any idea what personality/mental illness my mother-in-law and sister-in-law have? This is insane. We are trying to heal from this as a family. Our son is doing well, he's in therapy, and we're doing everything we can to help him through this. To add, yes, we have completely cut off contact with all of them. The harassment started whenever we started to initiate no contact. We blocked numbers and they ended up getting fake numbers through apps to continue to harass us until police got involved. Also, we did voice concerns to children and youth services about our concerns for the 7-year-old could possibly be being abused as well. It was investigated, but I have no idea what those outcomes were. That was my concern as well. I mean, I genuinely don't think it would matter what this woman, the sister-in-law, what she does. It doesn't matter what she does. Her parents, her mum, is going to back her regardless. It doesn't matter what proof, receipts, police reports you come with. She's going to back her. And it doesn't matter how much you love somebody. You still need to be able to see the difference between wrong and right. It doesn't mean you love them any less. Something that really gets me is if you as a parent make a decision for your child. Now, I know this is a huge decision that they've made to keep their son away from that 7-year-old, and I completely agree with their decision. But even if you make a small decision, you know, I don't have an example right now, but just a small decision for the benefit, for the welfare of your child. Why would that bother anybody else? Why would your answer not straight away just be, yeah, of course we'll go along with that? And I'm talking about smaller issues than keeping the son away from the 7-year-old, although they absolutely should have agreed and gone along with what the parents wanted and needed for their child's safety. But I'm talking about smaller issues here, just small decisions that you make for the benefit of your child. There will always be people that take issue with it, that question it, that mock decisions. And I will never get my head around it. If you've made a decision as the parent, everybody else around you needs to go along with that decision, needs to not question that decision. Like if a friend come up to me and said, hey, we're not doing this, or we're not letting our child watch this anymore. Absolutely. You know, if they're staying over my house for the night, if I'm looking after them, that program won't go on. If it's a certain thing to eat, they will not be eating that, because I'd be following the parents' rules. I wouldn't question it. I would follow blindly as long as it's for the benefit of that child. I just can't wrap my head around some people. But yeah, that story is horrendous. And I would be really interested to know what the findings were when and if they investigated the 7-year-old and how he came to be the way that he is. Because something's happened. It's not normal. Something's not right. Setting boundaries with mother-in-law. I have a 2-month-old baby. Mother-in-law is a headache and oversteps boundaries often. Partner and I set her straight. She's a nurse. She loves to use her experience to give unsolicited advice that is more of her trying to control everything as opposed to just giving suggestions. She doesn't use it to actually be helpful and never to be compassionate. She's the definition of mean girl to nurse pipeline. Literally right before I got pregnant, she told my partner not to have kids with me because my mum's schizophrenic and essentially will have kids with fucked up genes. Ooh. He has a rough family medical history too. She apologised after months of swearing up and down she doesn't have to apologise because she did nothing wrong. It's a nurse's perspective, she'd say. Every time it got brought up, it turned into a big fight. My partner told her she needs to apologise to me. She tried planning the baby shower with me, but I said no until she addresses it with me. She apologised and bullshitted the entire time, completely downplayed the situation and pulled excuses out of her ass. I decided to be the bigger person and not call her out and just let it go. But I kind of regret that now. Why is it always the daughter-in-law that needs to let it go? During pregnancy, she stressed me out, but we live 4 hours away, so distance helped. At my baby shower, my family met my partner's family for the first time, and my mother-in-law made a bad first impression. She talked about how she can't buy a new house to take care of her dad who has dementia because I don't want to take over her current house. We have no intention of leaving our area for a while, but I'm the one being blamed for not moving and for her not being able to care for her dad since she can't live with him because she can't get a new house because of me. She claims us moving into that house is what's best for the baby. It's right next to an elementary school, but that school doesn't have the resources I want, so she wouldn't go there anyways. She called the baby's name ugly. And kept going off about it. It wasn't officially decided to be the baby's name yet. She invited a friend who was a meth addict she hadn't seen for a long time, and her estranged mother. My baby shower was their reunion. Then she talked shit about how the friend let herself go and she looks old, etc., etc. I mean, she's a meth addict. At some point, she posted my ultrasound and it has my full name, date of birth, name of my doctor, hospital I go to, and she doesn't even follow me. I'm very private. I don't even have my full name on my own socials. Recently, she tried telling us to delay the baby's vaccines because of autism. Her youngest has it and she swears it's because of the vaccines. She claims she knows so much because she's been in the medical field for X amount of years. She acted like she knew more than my baby's paediatrician. Also, at birth I was doing skin to skin and she told me to give her the baby because I'm going to have lots of time with her. She was only hours old. What kind of person thinks they have the right to demand a baby from its mum at just a few hours old? Or at any point? Who does that? On day 2, she showed up unannounced in the morning and woke me up. I got 2 hours of sleep. Staff wanted to take the baby for testing, but father-in-law wanted to leave soon and wanted to have more time with the baby, and so wanted staff to hold off on testing. My partner said no and took her for the testing anyways. I had to send away the lactation consultant because mother-in-law and father-in-law were there and I was too overwhelmed with all of the hospital personnel coming in and out. Too much going on. This had a bad chain reaction because the baby wasn't latching well and I was in pain for a long time. For the first month or so, she had FaceTimed my partner so often so that the baby could hear her and recognise her voice. She never once checked in on me, but she's a nurse. When mother-in-law and father-in-law were going to visit last week, father-in-law was hostile and tried to cancel because my partner and I said no to going to a restaurant and he doesn't want to be cooped up in a hotel. My mother-in-law shut him down and agrees with protecting the baby's health. I mean, I would give her props for that, but I just can't because it's going to work for her anyway. She just wants to be around that baby. I'm glad she agreed. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad she shut the father-in-law down. But I still don't like her. I've been lagging on addressing the above with her because of the newborn trenches. I only had 2 days' notice when they were coming, so I tried addressing it the night before. Mother-in-law had a rough day with her dad, who's got dementia, and wasn't having it. We started arguing and I hung up. I told her she can still visit if she addresses me and stops being combative. I said it nicer, of course. She runs to my partner saying, If you can't see what's happening, I don't know what to tell you. I think she meant I'm trying to drive a wedge between them. I don't know. She said something that really rubbed me up the wrong way. She said that my baby needs her grandma. Bonding begins at birth. And some other stuff. I feel so spiritually disgusted by that. It really rubs me the wrong way, and I can't quite verbalize why. For one, the baby doesn't need her. What the baby needs is a stable environment without tension or fighting, and for her mum to stop being so stressed out. Focus on getting that right before you make yourself important. 2, her presence is a privilege, not a right. Couldn't agree with that more. 3, bonding is an emotional attachment for security and trust. My baby only needs to bond with me and her father, no one else. And she interrupted my baby bonding when my baby was hours old. Her relationship with my child is a privilege to both her and my baby. It's not a right. It would be amazing for my baby to have a village, but every member of that village must be worthy, and if their presence causes any harm, they can get booted out. I love the way she's put that. I think she wrote that beautifully. And I couldn't agree with her anymore. Especially the part where she says it's a privilege, not a right, to be in the baby's life. I think if somebody constantly ignores your boundaries as a parent, you're gonna need that space. Of course you are. The worst thing for a baby is a stressed out parent, especially a stressed out mum. I mean, my personal opinion is that grandparents are extremely important. If you're lucky enough to have them in your life, they are so important. And I think that because I have my grandparents in my life, and they are a huge, huge part of my life and a huge part of my childhood. But they were in my life because they constantly showed up with love, with respect, with acknowledgement for how my mum wanted to parent. They never stepped in that way. They stepped in when they was asked to. They stepped in because they wanted to help, but they always respected my mum's parenting. They would never have gone against what she wanted for us. One positive thing that I do want to say about this story is the fact that the husband backed his wife all the way. And I think we hear far too often that these men are too scared to say anything to their mums. Not all men, of course, but far too many. And he wasn't, and I love that. I love that for both of them because they're a team. This next story is called Opened Up to My Very Toxic Mother-in-Law About My Mum's Alcohol Addiction, and she used it as ammunition for years. When I first met my mother-in-law, I made the mistake of letting my guard down. She was overly kind to me at the beginning, always saying how lovely I was, constantly complimenting me. She was just always over the top, especially in front of others, but everything always felt very fake and just off to me. Her behaviour never sat well with me, and I always had this gut feeling that she didn't have good intentions. I ignored my intuition back then because I love her son, and I always will. So of course I dreamed of a good relationship with her. She started asking me questions to get to know me better at the time, and I honestly didn't know how insanely toxic she was. I still to this day have never met another human being as toxic as her. Anyway, I opened up to her about a deeply painful part of my life, that my own mother was a severe alcoholic and how much that affected me growing up. Instead of showing basic human empathy, which she does not have, she weaponized it. From that moment on, she started constantly inviting my mother to Christmases, birthdays, and other family events. Once my mum was there, Monster, aka mother-in-law, would pour her glass after glass of wine right in front of me, looking in my eyes from across the room and giving me her signature smirk the entire time. Oh my God, that is pure evil. It was pure calculated cruelty. I wondered to myself, why would she do that? She enjoyed watching the anxiety it caused me. She knew I wouldn't say anything because there was a house full of guests. The first couple of times it happened, I told my husband. He confronted her and she pretended to care. But she didn't actually care. She kept doing it. And I learned over the years that she did these things. It clearly gave her pleasure. Finally, I called her out directly. Her immediate reaction, she accused me of being rude and claimed she was just being nice and hospitable and that she didn't know. Oh, she fucking knew. Also, I learned to realize that she loved it when I got mad and upset. She loved that I looked like the crazy one and telling people that I was overreacting. She loves playing the victim. She would tell people I was outrageous. She would twist the story because she always has to look like the sweet grandmother who does nothing wrong. She really loved knowing that I was in pain from her actions. It's sickening to think about now. Of course, when I said this, no one wants to hear about it, or they'll acknowledge it and say, well, that's just how she is. It was so exhausting. Looking back, I honestly can't believe the absolute garbage I used to put up with, just to keep the peace with her. I used to stay quiet, which only emboldened her. I guess my whole point of posting this is to bring to light this toxic behaviour. If you have a toxic mother-in-law like this, speak up right away and don't let years of this toxic behaviour be viewed as normal, because it's not. Stand up to her and say no to her, and don't worry about offending her. If your mother-in-law is anything like mine, she knows exactly what she's doing. She is a deeply spiteful, vindictive person whose jealousy of others radiates off her face. Thankfully, things have changed. I finally put her in her place and no longer tolerate her cruelty, but reflecting on how someone can pretend to be a good person in public whilst being that evil is wild to me. My only regret is not going no contact sooner. Right now, I'm dealing with her smear campaign. I've learnt there's not much I can do. It's hurtful hearing about her insane lies, but not having to talk to her has been such a huge relief, and I'm really thankful she's no longer in my life like she used to be. If I ever have a son, sure, I don't know how to put it into words. Surely you would want to be friends with your daughter-in-law. I would want her to come and visit me, because then my son would come more also. And that actually sounds quite calculated, but I don't mean it like that. Like, I would want to like her. I would want to love her. I would want to see her as another daughter. Surely that is the normal thing, because you want your son to be happy. And by doing what these mums are doing, they're actually putting their sons in the middle, especially if their sons are weak. Like a lot of these men. If they're weak and they can't stand up to their mums. My God, if I ever acted anything like any of these, I would hope that my son had the balls to turn around and say, Mum, what the fuck are you doing? Because it's not right. I would never want to put him in the middle like that. I would never want to make him feel like that. And I would want to love whoever he loves. Is that not normal? And something that really sticks out to me in this story is the fact that she ignored her gut instinct from the start. And she ended up being right. And our instincts are so strong, especially as women. We should always listen to our instincts. I actually said on a video recently on TikTok that men got muscle and we got instinct. And it's so important that we listen to it. Tell me if you've ever ignored a gut instinct to keep the peace, to keep a relationship, and then down the line it turned out that you was right anyway. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know your stories. Our last story is called My Boyfriend's Mum is So Controlling and It's Destroying Our Relationship. My boyfriend and I, both in our 20s, have been dating for 2 years now. For most of our relationship, his mum and I got along. I listened to her problems, helped her around the house, spent time with the family, and tried to be as respectful as possible. The issue started when my boyfriend got kicked out of our house after a heated argument. She told him she doesn't want her in his life. No. She told him, I think it's the heat. My face is burning right now. I'm pretty sure my brain is frying. She told him she doesn't want him in her life and never wants to see him again. He stayed with me for a while, and not even a week later, when he signed a lease on an apartment, she became heavily involved in his living situation. She was helping with the cost of furniture, renovating things that needed to be, and even put a down payment for him. And of course, he didn't object. At first, I thought it was good because they were repairing their relationship, but now it feels like she has an influence over every decision in his life and our relationship. We had talked for a long time about eventually moving in together. I was never against the idea, But recently, however, my parents made a plan to move back to the country I'm living in. Because of that, I told my boyfriend I wanted to spend time living with my parents before making a major financial commitment and moving in with him. According to him and his mother, it was unacceptable. Since then, his mum has become openly hostile towards me. When he first moved in, he invited me to sleep by his place 3 times a week, and everything was going great. A few days ago, his mother demanded I pay them nearly $200 a month if I want to sleep at the apartment 3 times a week. They claimed it was to help with bills. I told them absolutely no way will I be paying his bills for him for sleeping in a bed he invited me in. So we concluded that I'd sleep 2 days a week once my parents moved here. At this point, his mum didn't like that I disagreed with her and started making sure I felt unwelcome in his home. A few days ago, I was using his shower and I noticed that the towel I normally use wasn't in its usual spot. I realised that his mum was at the apartment not long before and figured she just took it to wash it. He handed me a new one and all was fine until he asked her why my towel wasn't there. She told him she won't allow me to use any item that she owns. I wasn't allowed to leave anything of mine in his apartment, which included clothing, makeup, soaps, a toothbrush, perfumes, etc. I would have to carry my stuff around between cities every time I wanted to spend the night, including towels and blankets. I hit my breaking point when I also noticed my $400 boots were not where I put them. She had bagged them up in a plastic grocery bag, and when I asked why, she told us it was in the way. He had just moved in, so the closet was nearly empty and my shoes were on the bottom in the corner with nothing surrounding it. At this point, I felt as though she was trying to imply that I was filthy. I cried myself to sleep that night, and my boyfriend called his mum to confront her. She was so offended that he was defending me that she decided to stop helping him with half of the rent on the apartment. It's upsetting because she is the one who chose the apartment and knew it's more than what he could afford alone. He's now upset with me, asking me to move in with him sooner than I financially planned. I told him I couldn't live in an apartment that had his mum's name on the lease. If she can decide that I need to pay his bills because I sleep there a couple of nights a week, then she can also decide that I owe her half of the down payment and the cost of the renovations. I said I will only move in with him if it was in a different location with no parent involvement whatsoever. He didn't like that answer, and neither did she. My boyfriend's brother was reserving an NBA All-Star jacket for me, selling it to me for the original price. I wanted to wait to pay for it in cash until he flew over here in July, and I saw it for myself. And in his mother's words, she wanted to punish me and told her son not to sell me the jacket at all, even though I offered to pay the retail price. It is a sold-out jacket that I can't find anywhere else, so I'm devastated and she knows it. Both brothers admitted that was uncalled for, but they're afraid to go against her in any way. What hurts the most about all of this is that nobody seems to care how I feel. His family thinks I'm wrong because we've been together for 2 years and I'm not immediately moving in. I feel like I'm constantly being painted as the villain because I want to spend a few months to breathe and spend time with my family. I love him so much that this hurts me so much. I'm so exhausted and drained. Am I being unreasonable for not wanting to help out with the bills? No. Hold on. The mother-in-law actually said that she wants to punish her. She wants to punish her son's girlfriend for not moving in, for not paying out for somewhere that she doesn't even live. And I think that's what happens when you accept financial help with stipulations. You almost give somebody authority over your life, and although you still do have every right to say no, it becomes a lot harder, especially if you're a boy and the person you accepted the financial help from is your mum. I do need to add again, this is not all men, but it is far too many of them. What is it with mums and their sons? Not all, but what is it with a lot of mums and their sons? Why can't they let go? Why do they need them to still feel like they're hanging off their boob? I'm really curious to know what you think. If your partner was being offered financial help from his parents, but that meant they had some kind of involvement in your relationship, would you accept that financial help? Would you want your partner to accept that financial help? Or would you rather struggle together? And I feel like the answer is really obvious there, but I do think some people would still take that financial help. I mean, personally, I would rather struggle. I would rather live in a tent on a driveway and still have our independence in our relationship. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of Spill the TXC in my TXC headquarters. It's been great. I'm now going to go and down a whole bottle of water. Don't forget, if you've got any stories you want to hear read out, send them to toxicstories@outlook.com, and I will see you next week for a brand new episode. I love you. Bye.